Well, my visit to Japan is based on an invitation extended to me by Sasagawa Peace Foundation to have a lecture here and to meet scholars and experts. At the same time, I use this opportunity to have some political and economic meetings with the relevant authorities. I have the pleasure to meet Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of METI, and Minister of Finance. As you know, we are in the post-JCPOA era. After the nuclear deal, sanctions are lifted, and there are huge opportunities to expand bilateral relations between Iran and Japan in all fields, especially in economic fields. And I'm going to meet also many leaders of the banks and companies, Japanese companies, and I believe that and I hope that this visit can contribute to more expansion of relations between Iran and Japan. Well, actually, Iran and Japan are two ancient nations in two ends of Asia, one in the east and the other one in the west side of the Asia. There has been contacts between these two nations which goes back to at least 1,500 years ago. Through the Silk Road, there has been both economic and cultural exchanges between the two sides. And we can see the remaining of these cultural exchanges in Japan's museums as well as Iranian museums. During all these long years, cultural exchanges have been always prominent. In the recent and modern history, economic exchanges, of course, is very important, but still we have lots of cultural exchanges and lots of cultural programs between the two nations and between the two governments. And this has never stopped, even in the years of sanctions, when economic relations and to some extent political relations between the two sides was somehow decreased. Both sides tried hard to keep the level of cultural exchanges at the same level as it was before. And we are glad that we were quite successful on that. That cultural exchanges helped the channels between the two countries remain open and active. And I admire Kobe Kato sensei, who played a very important role in this regard. His father had some connections with Iran. He had traveled to Iran and discovered some pottery methods which were used in ancient Iran, and he used them in his art work. The legacy was continued by his son, Kobe Kato sensei. When I met him for the first time, it was quite impressive for me to see that old Iranian techniques are used here in Japan to produce very beautiful modern art. So I decided to make a connection between him and Iran and Iranian art centers. That was a very successful experience. He has had several exhibitions in Iran so far. He has traveled to Iran. He has very well received by art centers in Iran. And as I said, that was a very successful experience of cultural exchanges between the two sides, and I really appreciate him. we believe that in the current situation in the Middle East, there is no way but to establish dialogue and cooperation. Unfortunately, we are facing many different challenges in the Middle East, from political and social challenges to economic challenges. We have the new form of takfiri terrorism, which works at the global level, but especially in the Middle East. And we have foreign interventions, and we have Palestinian issue, which is still remained as an open wound to the heart of Islamic world. There are civil wars going on, unfortunately, in Syria and Yemen. There are deep violations in other places. We believe, as a major player in the region, that there is no way but to establish, as I said, dialogue and cooperation. And to do that, we need to change our approach. That is not possible if we still thinking like Cold War era. There is no win-lose game anymore in the international international community. We have to go for a win-win game, and that new approach should be adopted by all parties. Iran, for has actually taken that approach when it comes to the nuclear negotiations. Iran entered into negotiation with 6 major powers, and the negotiation was successful when both sides, Iran and the other side, took the same position, same approach of a win-win solution. So we believe that there are lessons to be learned from this successful experience for the whole region, and actually for the international community. There is no military solution to the very sophisticated problems in the Middle East. We have to go for political solutions. We have to go and build understanding. We have to go and build cooperation, and that can be done only through dialogue. We are fully prepared to engage into dialogue and discussion and negotiations with other partners in the Middle East, so we can achieve and we can build understanding, and based on that we can start cooperation, and so we can move towards peace and prosperity for the whole region. The question of human rights and rights of women in general is something very important in the whole country. The government and President Rouhani attach great importance to that. As a matter of fact, there is no legal obstacle for women to participate in social, economic, and even political activities. All doors are open for them to take part in any activity they wish. As you see, we have now women as parliamentarians, we have women as vice president, we have women in different places, but of course the number is not high, and this is not acceptable actually. Why the number is not high? Not because of any regulation or any legal ban, but because of the capabilities which have not been developed yet in the majority of women in Iran, as it is the case in many other parts of the world. So the program of the Iranian government is to empower women at all levels, so they can present their capabilities, they can develop their capabilities, and contribute to the progress of the society in a much better way. As far as the Foreign Ministry is concerned, we are actually interested to establish working relations with other countries in order in the same subject. For example, we have actually developed a project with Sasagawa Peace Foundation for the empowerment of women. There are experiences in Japan we can use. There are experiences in Iran that maybe Japanese women can use. So to establish a dialogue between the two countries, between women of the two countries, so they can both be empowered and learn from each other's experiences and take part in the social activities, political activities, in economic entrepreneurs, for example. We believe that this is a very important area for cooperation, and we are so glad that we have been able to develop that with Sasagawa Peace Foundation. Well, that is actually an excellent program. Well, the first time I started to know Sasagawa Peace Foundation was 2009, when I was ambassador in Tokyo, and I actually learned that there is such a capable foundation in Tokyo. So I contacted them. We had good discussions. I made a lecture in the foundation, and that was the beginning of a new road between Iran and Sasagawa Peace Foundation. Then they started a project to work on Islam and Middle East. We helped them a lot. An Iranian research institute called IPIS, Institute for Political and International Studies, started to work with SPF. They had a series of seminars and conferences and roundtables and speeches done in Tokyo and Tehran. Then we started a program for exchanging students, which was a very successful experience. Sasagawa Peace Foundation was kind enough to support that project. So each year a group of 10 or so Iranian and Japanese students are coming to each other's capitals. Many of those Iranian students are my students. I have been in touch with them after they returned from Tokyo. They are quite satisfied. They have found a new image of Japan, and I'm sure they would play important role for the future of Iran-Japan relations, because they are mostly students who will enter into foreign office as young diplomats. Then we came to this project of women's empowerment, which is at its beginning. We are now thinking about other projects between the two sides in the field of environment, for example, which is a very important issue nowadays, in the field of tourism. So the relation between Iran and Sasagawa Peace Foundation is actually promoting and expanding into new areas. So things are moving forward. We appreciate that, and we are fully prepared to continue our cooperation with Sasagawa Peace Foundation.